Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I, a 27-year-old female, got married to my boss, 39, and it was a dream come true. I was just an ordinary employee working in a law firm, but an aspiring lawyer who had big dreams. I got to spend a lot of time around my boss, and to be true, I had already fallen for him. I also got some vibes and signals from him and supposed that he liked me back, but I wasn't sure, as sometimes he would totally ignore me and would not even respond. I was very careful with my actions and dared not to reveal that I had feelings for him. I heard he was single, and this sort of surprised me, but I took it as a chance for me. But there was no way I could be direct with him because he was still a boss and I could not risk my job. It all started when we were working on a case together and had to see each other after the office too. We used to see each other in a nearby cafe and would put together the preparations for the hearing to be held the next day. One evening, he told me that he was too tired and could not go to the cafe after the office, so if I would get to his place, he would appreciate that. I was very hesitant, but decided to go, and I told him that I would be there. We were studying the case in his study room when things got intimate and we made out. He told me that I could stay there for the night, but I had so many emotions and left his place immediately. I felt like I had preyed upon him as I knew it was my chance to get my hands on him. The next day, I was not even able to face him and was too anxious for the hearing. A couple of weeks went by and he called me to his office saying that he needed to talk. He told me that he had been crushing over me since the first day and knew I felt the same for him. I froze in my place. He told me that I did not need to worry and he could not wait to marry me. I could not believe my ears. I got home and was over the moon. A few more days passed and we went on a date. This was the time when we started talking day and night and could not wait to get married. I announced this to my parents and they were so happy to know it. My husband had told me that he had no family and our wedding was going to be a small, intimate event, including my family only, and also that we had to keep this marriage a secret and would announce it at the right time to avoid controversies. I had a lot of questions, but I agreed. I told my parents about it and requested them to keep it secret. We got married and I moved in with him. It was just like a fairy tale. I could not believe that I was able to marry my boss. Everything was so perfect and beyond imagination. One day, when my husband was taking a shower, he received a text from an unknown number saying, "Call me ASAP, son." I picked up the phone and replied, "Who was this?" Another text was received saying, "Your mom is stupid." I could not believe it. My husband came out of the bathroom and I asked him what was it, to which he replied that it was her aunt who called him son and wanted him to call her mom. I wasn't convinced at all and asked where she lived. My husband exploded and asked how I dared to touch his phone or reply to a text. I apologized promptly. He got ready and went to the office, but I was too hurt to go out. I'm not able to believe what he has told me about that text and the lady who wanted to talk. I feel like there's something wrong. I have no guts to talk about it again, as he will react harshly, and I can't take it. I could not hold back and decided to ask my husband straightforwardly about the lady. We came back from the office and I told him that I needed to talk. He asked if we could have our dinner first because he was too tired to take any nonsense. The dinner was served and we ate quietly. We went to our bedroom afterward, and I told him that I needed answers. I asked him who that lady was, and his reply was the same. I asked him if they were so close that she called him her son, and why was she not invited to the wedding. He told me that she was too old and weak, and could not attend such events. I asked him if she knew about our marriage, to which he said that he had already informed her. The next question I asked was, where did the woman live? He lost it here and told me that he was already tired of the court today and could not stand any more questioning. The things which are bothering me are that whatever the reason was, if she was so near and dear, she should have been brought to the wedding. I had to answer so many questions asked by my family regarding my husband's family, and he didn't even care. My husband told me that he would be away on the weekend and I could go back to my parents' house if I wanted to, because I would feel alone here. I asked him where he was planning to go, and he told me that it was a meeting with an old client. I told him that I already knew about his old clients, and all of them were from the same city. He told me that my detective-like behavior made him lie to me, and she was going to see that aunt who had texted him. I told him that if he was going to see her, I was also going along with him. He asked me why I was so obsessed with her, to which I replied that I was just curious and wanted to meet her in person. He told me that I was not going with him, and he would drop me at my parents' house. I was too tired to argue onwards. I do not get why he was not ready to take me if that lady already knew about our wedding. Also, does that lady even exist? Or is it someone else? I'm so worried, and my head is pounding right now. My husband came back and was in a very good mood. I asked him if he had had a great time, to which he replied that his trip had gone well, but he was a bit tired and needed rest. A few days later, there was a call from an unknown number on my husband's phone, and I got to pick it up. I asked who it was, and came to know that it was the same lady. I greeted her well and asked her how she was. She responded politely and called me by another name. I was confused, but thought that she might have forgotten my name. She went on and asked about my husband and how his office was going. She then asked how were the kids going, and if they were home. I told her that I did not get her, so she repeated herself, asking if the kids were at home or had gone to the school. I told her that we did not have any kids. She seemed confused and asked my name. I told her my name, and then she asked what I was doing on her son's phone. I told her that I was his wife, to which she replied that I was lying and hung up the phone. I am literally outzoned. I do not know what is going on, and I think I'll have to confront my husband. Before I would confront my husband, I knew I had to look for shreds of evidence because he would just come up with another story and sabotage me. The first thing I knew I had to go through was his phone. As soon as I got my hands on his phone, I went to the photo gallery. There was nothing special, and then I got an idea to look for a hidden album. I knew I would find something regarding the story going on behind my back. There, I found his selfies with a woman and 2 kids. There were a lot of photos, and an old lady was also present in them. I went to my husband and asked him who those people were. He snatched his phone back and asked me how dared I. I yelled at him and told him that it was he who was going to give answers tonight. He asked me to calm down, and I threw his phone against the wall. I told him that I would expose our marriage right away if he did not respond like a sensible person. I guess he got scared and told me that the woman was his long-term girlfriend and they had kids too. The old lady was his mom. He went on and said that he had lied because he loved me and could not stay without me. I packed my stuff and left immediately. It took me a few days to gather myself and face the fact that I had been scammed and used. I was not able to sleep well or eat well and hated being alive. I could not let him go like that and prey on someone else, keeping things secret. I took to social media and posted my video narrating the whole story and also added photos from our wedding day. I told how he had allured me and then trapped me with his lies until I found out about the things. I also hunted for his girlfriend's Facebook account and sent her our photos. I wanted him to suffer the worst. I had already sent my resignation to the law firm and had decided to move to another city after divorcing him. It was difficult for me to handle myself and also face my family, who was, of course, upset and told me that this had happened because I rushed things. But I'm glad his reality was exposed timely and I dared to ditch him. NTA, kudos to you, strong woman. So sorry to read that you had to go through all that just to find out how miserable your husband was. I can imagine how it feels like when you're emotionally robbed. But believe me, it was for the better and was just a chapter of your life that thankfully ended, because the longer it would go, the harder it would have been for you. You courageously kept on questioning him and did not let him fool you, and I'm proud of that. NTA, OP's husband literally shocks me. How could a person be such a trap? I guess he knew that OP would not fall into our relationship, or maybe he was acting more genuine by pulling OP into marriage because his motive was clear, and he was just having fun. I feel sorry for the other family and the way he was deceiving his kid's mom. I hope she kicks him in the ass and dumps him, just like the OP did.
Next story.
I, 22 female, have a boyfriend, 35 male, who's always wanted to have children. He struggles with fertility issues. I recently found out that I was pregnant, and we are both ecstatic to have a baby, even though it was unexpected so early on in our relationship. We've been together for nearly 2 years, but my mother-in-law has never really liked me and made snide comments whenever we visited. My boyfriend told me that she has always been like this and to brush it off, which I almost always do. His family are Christians and are quite traditional, so they don't like the fact that we're having a child without being married. But me and my boyfriend both agreed to wait until the time is right. As it was recently Easter, we decided to visit his family for the holidays and stay at their house for a week, because most of his family would be there and he enjoyed seeing his siblings. When we were eating dinner together, my mother-in-law started making remarks about how she will be a better suited mother to the baby, as she thinks I'm too young and irresponsible. I have a stable job, and I split the rent with my boyfriend for our apartment. We're also stable enough to raise a child, so we don't need anyone's help. I brushed off her remark and moved on to a different topic of conversation. After that dinner, she kept on making comments on my weight and how I will never be good enough to carry her grandchild, which really hurt me because my boyfriend didn't even ask her to stop, and everyone brushed past them. Today, I finally had enough of her comments, as she had said to me that she'd rather me have a miscarriage than ever see me be a mother to her son's child. And I finally snapped. I called her a selfish bitch who needs to keep her nose out of her son's business, as she is obsessed with him and acts like she wants to carry his child herself. I stormed out of their house and walked for a while until I called a cab and went home. My boyfriend didn't stop calling me and messaging me about how I was an a-hole to his mother and made her cry, so I ignored the rest of his calls and turned off my phone. After waiting for hours, he came home and started yelling at me for disrespecting his mother in her own home and accusing her of disgusting things. He's demanding that I go and apologize to her, and I'm starting to feel like what I said is wrong and that I should apologize, but I really don't want to see her again, and I'm still angry and upset about what she said. AITA? Sorry for the confusion to the people talking about me calling her my mother-in-law. I am not married to him, but I have always seen his family as my own, due to me not being close to my own family anymore because of personal reasons. I understand this may be very confusing. I am so sorry. Thank you to everyone who has helped. I have seen a few comments about our age gap. I would like to reassure everyone that we met when I was around 20 and I approached him at the gym and we started there. My boyfriend still hasn't returned home after our argument, but I am trying my best to get in contact with him, like lots of you suggested. I have researched shelters near me and realized that our relationship isn't healthy. I will contact a lawyer and try to contact my sister for support. As a lot of you have asked for an update, I will let you all know once I have discussed therapy with him If he disagrees, then I'll definitely be contacting helplines. My sister answered, and we talked about my situation. I apologized to her after a long talk, and she has agreed to take me in. She will book a ticket on Monday for me to prepare and leave safely. I talked to my boyfriend about the situation because he finally came home a few hours ago, and he didn't take it well. As it was extremely late, I realized it was best not to leave. My boyfriend has fallen asleep, and early this morning I have made plans to travel to a shelter to discuss options in person. Thank you for everyone's support through this. NTA, but you have a boyfriend problem. He's 35 and doesn't have your back. He supports Mommy Dearest over the future mother of his child. He yells at you for standing up for yourself. You're 22. Do you really want to attach yourself to this shit show?
Next story.
I have two sons, James, 11, and Danny, 7. Since they were little, we have a deal when we do our grocery shopping for the week. They pick out junk food like cookies, chips, or whatever. That's their treat for the week. They can share, but they don't have to. There's plenty of other stuff to eat, but this is their special thing. James has a dairy allergy, so can only have certain things. Up until recently, they'd each get something they both liked and shared. But then a month or so ago, Danny picked out some Cheetos. James couldn't have any, so Danny figured out if he got something with dairy, he didn't have to share. He's been getting stuff with cheese since. Thing is, Danny said that since it's not his fault James can't have it, that he's still entitled to some of his brother's treatment. Danny offered to trade. James declined, and Danny asked for some of his snacks anyway. James says, I can't have any of yours. You can't have mine. That resulted in Danny asking me to make James let him have some. I said those are their treats for the week, and he's the one that picked Cheetos, so James doesn't have to share if he doesn't want a no is no. The last few weeks, James has been complaining about running out quicker. I just figured he was eating more than he thought, or my wife was putting them in his lunch. Then last week I came up from the basement and Danny was standing in the kitchen eating some of James's cookies. I asked what he was doing and he said, James said I could have some. I asked James and he said, no, I didn't. That was a whole it's not fair argument. I put them on a higher shelf and told James to tell me when he wanted some and I'd get them, which I thought worked. My wife kept brushing it off and saying, that's how kids are. You're an only child. You wouldn't get it. Then, Sunday, we went and did our weekly shopping. James and Danny got their snack. Danny got Cheez-Its and asked James to try one of his Pringles. James said no, and I put them up in their spot. I went to do some work in my office. James was working on homework, and Danny was watching TV. I came around the corner in the kitchen, and Danny was on the counter eating his brother's Pringles. I yelled at him and hid his Cheez-Its. My wife's suggestion was neither of them get special snacks anymore. But why punish both for one's behavior? I ordered a food locker. I gave it to James with a lock and key. Danny had a fit. Now my wife is mad at me and said I'm an a-hole and playing favorites. That they're just having a normal sibling disagreement and it'll pass, but I went too far with a lockbox. Danny isn't understanding. No, I don't want him growing up thinking he can have whatever he wants. AITA? NTA. Danny needs to understand no means no. Your AH wife is raising a potential assaulter.